Welcome back, you guys. It is Thursday afternoon, and we are live with my co-host here, Rob. Hey, Rob.
Hey Joseph, how's it going?
Good. How you doing, buddy?
Doing all right. Ready to talk about some football again.
I agree, and we kind of talked about this offline as we finished our last stream, which was the running back market. I thought you brought up a lot of good points. So, as free agency has kicked off in the NFL, let's talk running backs.
Yep. So first off, the most surprising thing I read this morning. Apparently, the Titans are talking about trading Derrick Henry. It makes sense. Derrick Henry, like obviously, he's a beast. He's 29. He turns 30 at the end of the season, which we know that's where running backs tend to fall off.
Okay.
They just cut Robert Woods. They cut Taylor Lewan. They're trying to cut the salary cap down. They're clearly in rebuilding now.
So
They,
would you say it's a whole rebuild? You think they're gonna strip it all down?
I think so. I mean, at this point, like Derrick Henry is your team. He's getting ready to kind of walk off that cliff of the being 30. You kind of got to recoup everything you can, try and trade at the top. Even if you give up a year or two, if you get a bunch of draft picks, which people are going to give for Derrick Henry, um, trade your current team to build for the future. Um, really, like they have so many questions. They've had no passing game last year, so they're going to have to improve that. Taylor Lewan's been a staple of that team since he got drafted. Um, I think all signs are pointing towards let's rebuild, let's reimagine ourselves. Um, in the same article that I read about them potentially trading Derrick Henry, they said something that was incredibly scary. That they thought they should trade him to the Bills. Um,
If you give the Bills a running game, um, there might be now you're saving Josh Allen finally.
yeah, I mean, one of my quotes from the last show was they hit hard. Well, Derrick Henry hits real hard, hard enough to where people that are paid to hit people hard are scared to hit him.
Yes, and I saw it when they played Jacksonville, dude. Like that's something like even though we beat the Tennessee Titans, to go to the playoffs, um, Derrick Henry is still that wrecking ball that just gets after it, and nobody wants to hit him. I mean, that's the thing, dude. Like he's a freight train.
Yep. Well, look at the games that they played where Ryan Tannehill was out. They literally didn't throw. Like receivers were not getting yards. It was just Derrick Henry. Like Malik Willis was just kind of there. Um, like if they did a whole game plan around just Derrick Henry, then like add him to a team that actually has a threat with a pass, and it's dangerous. It's scary and it's painful.
Yeah, I think so I mean if we look at the AFC South and if they're going into full rebuild mode, I mean there's probably a reason why. And that's I think this due to the fact because of the emergence of Jacksonville and them making the moves they made as the trading deadline ended last season and how they crumbled. I mean you lose 7 to 8 games in a row and you didn't make a coaching change, which means the ownership still believes in the coaching staff. But I mean, as we both know, there's probably going to be some firings of where that's going to happen.
Well, and lucky for them, like sorry, I know the Jags are in there, but the AFC South is really the NFC South of the AFC.
I am
I
a
mean,
okay with that. I like I said before, like I remember our glory days and definitely watching them this year. I think you're 100% right. The AFC South is the NFC South as well too, which is kind of weird. But if we look at the makeup of just that whole ordeal there, I mean, if Derrick Henry does go potentially to um, Buffalo, what's that say for Buffalo?
yeah, I mean that scares me as a Chiefs fan. But like, so let's stay at AFC South real quick.
Okay.
Look at the other teams. Like, obviously, Jags are upward trending.
Yep.
Um, the Colts, like, it doesn't matter what old quarterback they put in there next, they can't protect him.
And let's
That
take it
is,
Derek Carr.
they still can't protect him. Like they
I
have no
mean,
line. Everybody that's there is just getting teed off on. It's a defensive lineman's heaven. Uh, like even right now, like they're just trying to survive in today's market. Tennessee is currently surviving in today's market, but upside for the future is very low. You look at the Texans; they've got D'Amico Ryans as the new head coach. They really don't have much else going on down there. So if I'm going to rebuild, and I'm going like, yeah, like I'm going to sell today to be able to win tomorrow.
and
If
just to stay on the D'Amico Ryan thing, like you just said, like San Francisco just got, if not stayed the same, if not got better on the defensive side of the ball with Steve Wilkes going to be defensive coordinator over there.
Yep. Yeah, so I think like this Derrick Henry thing, it makes sense. Like at first, I thought like there's no way they're going to trade their entire team, and then I thought about it and like, man, like their entire team's done after what 2 years?
Yeah,
Like get it?
I mean look at Carolina when they traded Christian McCaffrey last season. That was their best player. So unless you have a Steve Wilkes type of coach, then that's the only way that you're making a run.
Yep. Yeah. So you want to talk to about the next running back coming up?
Yup.
Let's
Your
see. We've
boy.
got Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
So give us some
Um,
backstory on Clyde Edwards real quick as we go into this.
so the story is that Andy Reid called Patrick Mahomes and said, "Who do you want us to get in the first round of the draft?" And Patrick Mahomes said, "Go get Clyde." So they did. They drafted him in the first round. First year he did all right. After that, like I thought it was a waste of a first round pick. He he had all the potential, didn't execute. Granted, he's on a team with a ton of firepower, but he just didn't really come through. And then this year, seventh round rookie comes in and unseats him as the starter. And then the very next week, Clyde Edwards-Helaire gets injured and goes to IR. Like, all right, that seemed kind of weird coincidence there. And then he comes back from IR. He doesn't get activated for the Super Bowl, which was very telling. But then the big wow factor for me was he skipped the Super Bowl parade. What did he skip the Super Bowl parade for? The most unfootball thing I can think of. He went to go walk a runway in New York fashion show.
So
That's not a guy who's bought into his team. That's not a
so
team player.
all right. So you're saying he's not a team player?
No, he's not. Like you don't like you celebrate your team's victory. Like he booked it out of town. First chance he got. They're paying him first round money. He's got like what 1 or 2 years left on his contract. I like to
Mm-hmm.
see him get rid of it. Spend that money with somebody that's going to be there.
Now the seventh round pick that you guys got last year that ended up unseating him this coming year. I mean the good thing is you guys aren't paying him any money whatsoever, so which means that's just more depth at the running back chart for you. So what do you think he might get? Like if I think he's gonna get traded or he's gonna get cut. Um, I think they might be willing to eat the money, but knowing Andy Reid and how your team is, they're going to trade him to get a draft pick or two. And on top of that, he's got a lot of capital due to the fact because you guys just won Super Bowl. I mean, no matter if you played not a lot of snaps, you're still going to get.
Yeah, I think that him skipping that parade is what's going to hurt the return that we're going to get for him though. But I
So
mean, he had a more successful career so far than Trent Richardson, and Trent Richardson floated around to a few different teams.
yeah. So like, what would you say he would get? You think you think he'd fetch a like a high second or you think they'd probably just mark him off for a third? Because you have to remember like like Calvin Ridley from Atlanta, like we only traded like a 6th round pick for him.
Yeah, I'd be surprised. I'd be ecstatic if we got a third round, especially given that Brett Veach does amazing things with third round picks. Like,
Okay.
uh,
So like were you pretty shocked as a just as an overall fan seeing that he skipped the Super Bowl parade?
yeah, because the whole thing they're always talking like they're like brothers. Like Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelsey go to each other's house to watch every game when they're not playing. Like they're always doing everything together. They are truly like friends. You
Okay.
see it even when players are leaving or when they're coming, like they're just hanging out together all the time. They have that brotherhood.
Right.
So the epitome of this team is like we are all together. You see Patrick Mahomes out there hiding defense on the back, like it's all together. Marcus Kemp stepping up from like career practice squad to taking receptions during the AFC Championship game. Like everybody on that team plays a role, everybody matters, and everybody supports everybody. So when you're not with the team to celebrate their win, the win that you helped prepare all season for, like that tells me he's checked out, he's ready to go, and he needs to go. They can't
You're right.
let a cancer like that stick around.
And the good thing is like Andy Reid is real big on like team. And I think he knows having Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce as his guys. I think that's gonna be, obviously as we've seen it, it continues to bleed over.
Um,
Let's talk about. You want to go Zeke?
uh, yeah, we can go Zeke.
All right. All right, so for our Dallas fans, all right, we know how every Dallas fan loves Zeke. Let's just start there. All right, Zeke, I felt like has not lived up to the potential he got drafted at. He's had one superstar season.
So I think before we talk about Zeke, we got to talk about Jerry. Talked about him last time.
All right, let's
User
talk about
emotion,
Jerry.
builds relationship with players, and he overpays because of it. He holds on too long. Um, he did do probably the smartest thing that I've seen him do since for a while. He took a lot of heat for a lot of years for drafting linemen at the top of the draft. They said it was wasted draft picks, but that line has consistently been amongst the best in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And he did it originally to protect Romo because Romo was his his golden child. Romo was always broken during playoffs. But what that allowed him to do is every single running back has had success behind them. McFadden had it. Pollard had it, or is having it. Zeke had it. And then I think the ego kind of went to Zeke's head. Like, he wants to be a superstar. He's out there like, oh, feed Zeke. But he's shown that one, his production's going down. Pollard's is going up. He held out to get a bunch of money, which, like, stupidly, Dallas paid him a ton of money to come in when it wasn't him. It was the line.
So like right there with that, with paying him the money he did, like Pollard was only a rookie when he got paid. Remember when Zeke got paid? So do you think they shouldn't have caved, and do you feel like they should have just because he still had like I think a year or two left on his current contract still before he was actually owed a contract.
Yeah. Well, they say that he's going to have to take a pay cut if he wants to stay on.
Well, I
Honestly,
know he openly said that. He openly did say that he was willing to take or to do a restructure essentially to stay on the team.
so if I'm Dallas, I know they're not going to do this because Jerry's too emotional. But if I'm unbiased and I'm Dallas, I'm saying let's restructure Zeke, then let's trade him. Let's take down his cap hit. Let him.
Who's gonna take a guy that averaged a little barely over 2 yards a carry in the playoffs when Pollard went down?
I don't know. I, I mean, he's got the name recognition. Somebody's going to be desperate, and somebody's going to at least put him on. So if you can lower the cap hit, get something for him, then I'd do it. But I don't see
Also,
the
like San
value.
Francisco.
No, he's not going to go behind Christian McCaffrey. Maybe the Raiders. They got Josh Jacobs coming up. That's gonna. Well, we're gonna talk about him in a little bit.
It's gonna cost them a lot of money. Is what they're fixing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, so do you? All right. So you're saying that what's gonna happen is they're gonna want to cut. No, they're gonna they're gonna restructure his contract and then they're gonna trade him because that's gonna make him more marketable then because then he's not such a big cap hit.
That's what I would do. I don't think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to have him take a pay cut. They're going to give that money to Pollard, and they're going to keep him because Andy Reid, or not Andy Reid, Jerry Jones likes his relationship with his player.
Then what about Pollard? Do you pay Pollard?
Yeah, absolutely.
But you're not gonna give him an overinflated contract like
Oh, he's not
$50
going to
million
be.
for like $40 million for like 4 years, are you?
No, he's not going to be a top paid running back.
So I
Well,
hope
they'll make him a top paid running back, but with that line, they're like, all right, well, like here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a running back factory behind this line. We're going to bring you in. We're going to keep drafting running backs. We might give you a boost. We'll give you a little bit paid, but once you want to be too highly paid, then we're going to recognize that. We're going to get rid of you to somebody else, and we'll bring up next man up. We'll let you come here. We're going to let you build your reputation. We're going to let you make some money, and then you can go cash in somewhere else and flop there.
that makes sense. I think Pollard's been super undervalued. I think to the organization just in general. Even Jerry, not Jerry, but even Skip Bayless has been pounding to death saying like, hey, like Pollard needs to be number one running back. Like he needs to he's been at the forefront of that too. Like before a lot of people started really talking about Pollard. And as we know, like yes, Skip Bayless is kind of a homer when it comes to his Dallas Cowboys, rightfully so. We all are at some point in time, but I can sit there and say that he was pretty adamant on it, and I think he should get a modest contract, nothing super big, but something like team friendly. But he's still making more than enough money for what he's doing.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know. I like going back to like the building a running back factory. It's the same model that the Patriots did when they had Tom Brady. They were bringing in low draft picks or decent draft picks. They were letting them study behind Brady. They'd put them in, let them show out for a game or two, and then they'd sell them. And they got a ton of draft capital for getting rid of Matt Castle. Jimmy Garoppolo is still in the league, but Ryan Mallett, like you can go on and on. Every year they're drafting a running back or a quarterback. They'd keep him for a couple years, and then they'd sell him for way more than they were worth. And I
Kind of like
think
what
with
San Francisco's fixing to do.
yep, and I think with the offensive line that they've invested in Dallas, that gives them the opportunity to do that with running backs. Let them flash behind this awesome line, sell them, get some draft picks next man.
Okay. Well, you heard it here, Dallas. That's what we're hoping. Jerry Jones hears us, or if you're Zeke or Pollard, hit us up. We'd like to talk to you.
Don't actually hit me though. Speaking of Alvin Kamara.
Yes, your boy.
uh, yeah, so Alvin Kamara, uh, he last year, I think about a year ago, um, video him with Chris Lamons, who the Chiefs just cut, and the Bengals signed him. A couple NFL players um, beating up a guy in an elevator at a club in Vegas.
Let's pull it up. I'm gonna pull it up right now. So go ahead and keep
Right.
talking as we
So, I guess story behind it is guy said that he was trying to get into the elevator. Somebody put his hands on his chest, knocked the hands down. Uh, Somebody hit him. The video you see Alvin Kamara clearly hitting him. And story is that in the elevator, they left in Alvin Kamara's elevator. Police identified him from his VIP receipt. And in the limo, Alvin Kamara was making comments like, "Oh, like I cracked that guy in the jaw so hard," bragging about it. And then his lawyer's now trying to say that it was self-defense. Um, Personally, like if it's a self-defense thing, I expect that conversation to be like, "I can't believe that happened," or um, "This was crazy." More in shock, not as much bragging like, "Oh, like I just hit this guy so hard." Which, or you better hit him hard. You're an NFL player. Like, how embarrassing it would
like
be if you're an NFL player you're supposed to be in peak physical condition. You hit a guy and he looks at you.
yeah. So I got it right here. Let me drag it over real quick. So slides. Um, extra camera? No, no, that's not what I want. Give me a second as I figure this out. Oh, share screen. Okay. Here we go. Yep. All right. Can you see my screen or no?
No, I can't.
No. All right. Oh wait, I think it's this way actually. Now that I think about it, it's gonna go this way.
while you're
I'm
getting
just,
that set up, what does this do to the scene? Because they already have Michael Thomas, who's star player. He hasn't been playing. He's been healthy. They're over the cap, or they're at least having cap problems. And Alvin Kamara is now like at worst he's going to get suspended a couple games, or at best, at worst, like he ends up going to jail. Um, what happens to this team then? They don't have Sean Payton. They don't have Drew Brees.
all right. Can you
Um,
see it?
it looks like it's loading.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, like if he ends up like being found guilty or getting suspended, like that team's in even worse shape than they have been. And that's considering that they're in the worst division. There it is.
Okay. Here we go. All right. I figured out how to do it. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and play it real quick, and let's see what if you are watching. You guys, let us know what you guys think about this real quick, and what's everyone's thoughts on it. So here it goes.
You see people kicking him. That looks like it. There we go.
Oh my god, dude.
Yeah. So personally, if I'm an NFL player fighting some nobody, it's got to be embarrassing that one, you had to have your friends help. Two, it justified that now you have charges. Like you're already a athlete in a physical sport. You hit a guy, your friends hit the guy, and then everyone starts kicking him. Like that's stupid if you're not a premier player in the NFL.
Right, and this happened last year. Like this wasn't even this year. Like I remember when the article happened last year, and I saw the video, and obviously as we see this video here, clear as day. You know, an NFL player or anyone with a lot of money has a target on their back to get sued, to get and why would you let it get that way?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes back to, I mean, it completely different conversation with like the domestic violence, female abuse, but
Yep,
Kareem Hunt kicked a female in a hallway, and he was out from the team. Ray Rice, horrible, hit his wife or his girlfriend in an elevator, out of
yep,
the entire the rest of his career.
yep.
Um, like you got to be held to a higher standard, and when you're an example for a kid, like the NFL is making a big focus, like reaching out, doing charities, doing things to bring up the community. And now you have a player that's a focal point of a team that's not only not bringing up the community, he's setting a horrible example to little kids. Um,
Yes. So like with that, like seeing the video, as we brought it up, and Alvin Kamara, this isn't the first time he's had off the field issues. You've almost shown a trend essentially. And now as a franchise, I'm not sure. Like, obviously, I'm not in those rooms or anything like that, but like, there's a vetting processes that we all know about. But man, like, you're paying someone that type of money, and like, let's say they go, like he's in legal trouble now, dude. So like, he's a distraction on the team. Now he's taken away from, what's possibly going to happen on free agency. It affects. Hey, do we need to draft another running back now? Do we need to go out in free agency and go get a running back? Due to the fact that we don't not going to know what's Alvin Kamara's situation legally. And I think a lot of people don't understand the ripple effects of one person's action and how does it affect the team.
so speaking of ripple effects, let's look at one thing that I think really changed perception of how teams are evaluating players' behavior off the field. Aaron Hernandez. Ripple
Okay.
effect through everything. So now, as an owner, I'm saying like, okay, well, here's signs. Like Patriots ignored those signs when it came to Aaron Hernandez. We saw how that turned out. I don't want anything to do with that. Like, I don't care how many yards you're getting. Get off my team. Get out of my
So
PR.
so with that then like how I mean these kids get vetted, man. I mean they're 20, 21 years old. You're handing them millions and millions of dollars. And yes, I get it 100%. But like where do you as an owner, where do you draw the line and where does the league draw the line and say, "Hey, Alvin, Dalvin Cook, Ray Rice. When is enough is enough?
Well, it's the same formula I use for my everyday job. And that is, as long as your production outweighs your headache, you get to keep your job. These guys, their production's going down and their headache's going up. So
I
if
mean,
you're not
but
in trouble,
but you got to think about it though too. Like they're in such a public, you know, um, area. They say NFL running back. Then they start up. If someone gets in trouble, they say NFL running back, and then the team. But the first three words are NFL running back. And I think that's what not a lot of people understand is you don't just represent yourself, your family name, but you represent the NFL, the largest sports figure in the world.
yep.
And when you and no matter what team you play for or how you play for it, if you're a practice squad person, it doesn't matter. They still say NFL wide receiver, practice squad person, or NFL wide receiver, da 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 da. And I'm not sure if that's drawn down to that small of a microscope, but I don't know. I mean, maybe it is when they get their rookie talks, as they're, like the mandatory talks that they have and stuff like that for all the rookies coming in. But I'm not sure if those particular words are being used.
Well, you mentioned something in there about practice players. That goes right back to production versus headache. So you look at Chris Lamon. He was in the video. He was there. He was a backup defensive back for the Chiefs. Video came out. The indictments came out. Chiefs cut him. Bills picked him up. Bengals picked him up the next day. But that just shows, like, if he was truly a practice squad player, he'd have been out. But
Well, it's even like Joe Mixon. Remember, Joe Mixon had the same issue too with the gun situation, and they try to and the DA was going to press charges, and obviously he got a really really good lawyer. I get it, but there's no way in heck you were sitting there telling me that it was a joke. It was this. It was that. Dude, you pointed a weapon at someone that individual did not know if it was loaded or not, and you think it's a game, and you think like, oh yes, I have a bunch of money, yes, which you do, but where do we draw the line and say, hey, it needs to change?
yeah.
Rob, and I really want to talk about this tomorrow. Really, I honestly do. I really think we need, maybe next week, we need to sit down and let's see how many incidents between the start of training camp to now, how many personal conduct issues has the NFL had?
Why we could take up a whole hour just talking about the Raiders when they moved to Vegas.
And that one was wild too. And they were on John Gruden had gotten in trouble, for the email scandal thing. AB had gotten that like fully contract deal, but didn't want to practice. He just had to show up, and he didn't want to show up still. And
then another offensive player.
yeah. And then there was one other one that got in trouble for like some like racial slur or something like that too at the same time.
Yep. So I mean, and that was an interesting thing because the story was the whole reason that the Raiders left LA was because there were too many distractions, the Hollywood lifestyle, they were getting in too much trouble. So then let's make the decision like, you know what? We can't handle LA, but we're gonna go to Vegas.
We're gonna go to Vegas.
And immediately get rid of two of our recent first round picks.
Yeah, because Henry Ruggs is supposed to be a world talent apparently. Obviously, they're still waiting to see what happens with him and his situation. Unfortunate, but as we start to get ready and get back on track here, as we like to deviate every once in a while, because I think we definitely hit some solid points on a couple of things that I know a lot of fans, but also a lot of people are upset to see because it does affect fantasy. It does affect a lot of things, man. Like, and that's what people don't realize. And I just want to just hit that home. Like, one person can like change the whole way a draft works, a whole way on how they attack free agency. like, and then not having to worry about like where their money's going to go because they thought they had you tied up with, and they thought that they could rely on you.
And let's think about like one of the most unfortunate things about this entire thing, regardless of the teams, regardless of the money. Based on what I've seen in general from NFL players, he has probably done a lot of good. He probably has a foundation. He's probably been trying to bring awareness to that, raise money for that. And chances are that now those foundations are going to suffer. The people that are impacted by those are going to suffer. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody's bringing up like, oh, he knocked out this dude in an elevator, but he's doing these things for kids. Like, no, like the kids are suffering because you had to be a tough guy in Vegas.
Don't understand it. Let's talk about the Raiders. Josh
Oh,
Jacobs.
you transition right into Josh Jacobs.
You like how I did that, right?
Yeah.
So we're
They
staying
got
in Vegas, you guys. So we're gonna talk about these Raiders and Josh Jacobs. Rob, go ahead and lead it because I know you're all over this.
as much as I don't want, you got to pay Josh Jacobs. Like his contract's up. They declined his 5th-year option. Maybe he had a chip on his shoulder. Maybe not. Doesn't matter. The dude performed. You
Oh, they
got
did.
rid of
Oh,
your
they did. Hold on, wait. They declined his 5th-year option.
yeah last year. So now they're gonna have to pay him. They shot themselves in the foot.
So you could have picked up his fifth year option for last year, and then franchise tagged him this year if you need a little bit of extra time to get your money right. But now they used the franchise tag last year on him to keep him, obviously, and then now
No,
I
he was
want to
still.
say
Uh,
say again.
I thought he was still on his rookie contract. That's why there was a 5th-year option. They just declined it.
But if they decline the 5th-year option, then they have to either franchise tag him or pay him.
Yeah, exactly. Like for this year. Um,
Right.
yeah. So, I mean, the guy executed, and this is a team that paid uh, John Gruden $10 million a year to dismantle the team.
For 10 years, they're still paying him.
Yeah. They got rid of Derek Carr. He forced their hand on that
What's
one.
your thought? So let's start with John Gruden first. We're gonna go. Let's go John Gruden, and then let's go Derek Carr, and then let's talk about Josh Jacobs. So let's talk about John Gruden. Obviously, he was in the booth. Came down to coach because obviously he loves the Raiders. He coached the Raiders. Against Brady when the Tuck rule got invented finally, and then you know, he goes to Tampa. What are your thoughts on it? Because he made a lot of trades, dude. I mean, he missed a lot of guys, and he traded Khalil Mack as well too to the Bears and helped them out. So what was your thoughts on them losing John Gruden due to the fact of the email scandal? First off,
Well, first, I think let's talk about how he got the job. So he had the
okay,
job. I think he got traded to the Bucks, and he won a Super Bowl when he got there. And
yes,
the rap or the behind the scenes thing, or kind of like the side table talk, was that was Tony Dungy's team. Tony built the
100%
team,
it was.
and he won with them. So then he ends up leaving, going to broadcasting, and every year people are trying to get him on their get him to coach their team. Every year he's the top, but I think he let him build up his ego. Yeah, I'm the man. Yeah, and then he works out a deal with Raiders to get to go back to the Raiders. They pay him a ton of money. Like at the time, like they were paying him like quarterback type money.
Hmm.
Granted, everything's changed since then. The quarterbacks are making a lot more, but they gave him quarterback money with a 10-year contract. So he leaves his cushy job in the
That's
booth.
baseball money.
Yeah. He does that. And then I think it was an ego thing. He had an ego. It's going to be his team. So everybody that had more star power than him was getting shipped off left and right. Lil Matt. Um, who else was over there? There were a few different star players. He just dismantled the team because he needed to have credit that he was getting. It was his team. Like he wasn't going to go through that again with Tony Dungy, where
No,
it
you're
was Tony.
right.
He's
No,
like,
you're
all
right.
right,
100.
anybody that can try and say this is somebody else's team, I'm shipping them off because this is going to be all me. And they let him do it. And then he ends up getting caught, open his mouth like on an email, letting his true side come out. And they're like, oh, well, now we got to get rid of him. So now the Raiders are left with, I don't want to say nothing because they had some good pieces, but they weren't what they could have been.
You're right,
Which
but then also too, but you're the one holding the bag and still having to pay a contract out and still find another head coach, and that's why the NFL had that survey that they've spent over $800 million in firing bad firings and are eating draft and eating up your I mean your budget. Yeah, your budget for the team. So that's where that goes.
yeah, it's crazy. So now went through Gruden. Who do you want to talk about next?
Derek Carr, man, I feel like Derek Carr got shafted. I'm a huge Derek Carr fan. I like Derek Carr. He was my dark horse to make it to playoffs this past season, but obviously that didn't matriculate.
Yeah, I don't know, like he's never a bad quarterback. He never had consistency. Um, when he did have weapons, like he was performing. My struggle is there's not that many teams out there that are going to have the same weapons that he had in Vegas. So one, he's going to have to find a team with comparable weapons to even have a shot. He's going to have some stability, something he hasn't had. He's going to have to have like really he's got to walk into the perfect situation because if he doesn't, this is not a league of patience. Um, I don't. I mean, the one advantage is he gets to leave the AFC West. He doesn't have to get spanked by Patrick Mahomes twice a year. Have to play Herbert twice a year. Um, like he's leaving the hardest division, and I think he's
But if
going
he
to
goes
try
to
and
the
get.
Jets, which he's possibly might, there's talks of him going to Jets. If he goes to Jets, dude, like I mean, I think that gives the Bills something not to look forward towards. And if the Miami Dolphins actually got consistent at quarterback, there's no way that the Bills even might not even possibly come out of the AFC West then.
The AFC East.
Yeah, East. Sorry, I apologize. Yeah,
Yeah.
the AFC East.
Yeah, so that's another crazy thing. Like that takes like the top two divisions are all in the AFC at that point.
Yep.
What other divisions have that kind of star power or like continuous
No,
success?
you're right. Like, yeah, continuous success. Yeah, exactly. Like there isn't, and that's the thing. Like
So
besides your division, like maybe Seattle, but they're NFC though.
yeah,
Like they're probably the next loaded division when you talk about pound for pound. Like, well, no, because Kyler's hurt too. So no. Like if you go like, because like the Raiders have Stidham right now, and if they go with Stidham, but there are talks that they possibly might go with they're gonna try to go get Jimmy G.
yeah. So that's another thing. Like if he goes, it's got to be the perfect. Like if it's not the Jets, he's going to the NFC because there's no competition in the NFC outside of the 49ers.
You're right.
Um, Same conversation we had last time. Uh, he's going to go to New York. It's going to be young people. They're still not the most consistent as
But they
far
could have
as
a
like
good draft and it could turn it around. Like if you think about it, if you put two solid wideouts with Derek, you better watch out.
yeah. But on the personal side, he's going to have more taxes in New York. He's going to have a lot more scrutiny. Um, Jets fans and New York media is ruthless. Um, yeah, it's he's going to go from having the black hole support him to potentially getting pushed down one.
I mean, you're
Um,
right.
like if I'm a quarterback, I'm looking for the NFC because now that especially since they lost Russell Wilson, like you got Brock Purdy, you got Geno Smith, and you got Aaron Rodgers. Who else is going to come?
Maybe no. Like the Packers have already said that they might even be trading him.
Yeah. So Jalen Hurts, like if I'm a quarterback, I want to go against NFC. I want that almost free ticket straight to the playoff.
I mean, you're right. I mean, it's gonna be like who's the worst team and who less sucks. I guess is the way to put it.
Yeah, like we're not the 49ers and then we sucked less.
Yes, exactly. let's talk about Josh Jacobs. So you said that they've got to pay him, right?
Yep.
He's gonna command big money, and they're gonna look at that Zeke contract as what they're gonna do.
Yeah. I mean, if he's gonna stay, that as a Chiefs fan, I don't want him to stay, but they have to keep him. If they're gonna stay, give that man as much of your cap as you can because I don't want you spending else.
Where all right, so like let's say he doesn't go or he doesn't get signed. What happens then?
He's a free agent market, and he's going. Where does he go?
To Chiefs?
No, they won't go. They're not going to spend money on a free agent running back. They got Pacheco. They've got if McKinnon comes back.
Mm.
Um,
Oh, maybe the Giants.
yeah, if they get rid of Saquon, or if
Because
they don't
Saquon's
tie
gonna
up.
want a bunch. I mean, Saquon's gonna want a bunch of money as well too. But if you look at like Josh Jacobs' situation, I think Josh Jacobs has been more consistent than Saquon. Just when it comes to like availability.
You know what's scary? If they can get their cap situation worked out, Derek Carr and Josh Jacobs to the Bucks.
But they don't have the. I don't think they have the cap space though.
I mean, it depends on how close Derek Carr and Josh Jacobs are, I guess. They could do a Brady Gronk thing. They work it out, work it in favor. Could you imagine? Because they've had Fournette. Fournette's a bust. They got rid of Ronald Jones. He didn't even crack the starting lineup for the Chiefs.
Oh,
But
he didn't.
no, he was. He came out when Clyde got injured. He was activated, but he may have played in like 2, 3 games tops all season.
He still got Super Bowl ring.
Yep. But think about this offense. Well, one, the Bucks have an amazing defense. They have Freeman. And now you have Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. I think is Tyler Brait still there?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you have the line that they had protecting Brady, and then you plug in Josh Jacobs and Derek Carr in the NFC South.
And they got those two rookie tight ends. Well, they're not rookies anymore, but like they have that experience and they have playoff experience, which also helps as well too. And most of that team has already been in the Super Bowl, so they have a lot of experience, veteran experience. But what's going to come down to coaching.
Yep, but you put that team in there, and I'm calling the NFC Championship to be 49ers versus the Bucks
That's a bold statement there, Cotton.
because the Eagles are losing a ton of people. They lost coordinators on both sides of the ball. Um, yeah, like
So where's Josh Jacobs go? If he doesn't get re-signed by the Raiders, where do you think he'll go?
well, we could look at it two different ways. We can say which team wants him.
Okay,
Every
which team would want him? You think?
um, I can see Seattle wanting him. I can see um, the Bears wanting him. I can see Ravens, Bills, almost everybody, man. Unless you've got a high caliber running back that's super cheap, you're talking about it. But where does he want to go? He wants to go
Someone with no
somewhere
state tax.
that's going to pay him. Yeah, no state income tax.
Yeah, he wants to know state income tax is what he wants. I feel like that's what a
But
lot of players want now. They want more of that no state income tax.
especially since they tasted that going from Oakland, where they're heavy tax, down to Vegas, where there's no state income.
Yeah. So let's move over to some bold predictions that I know that like you and I have talked about, and like let's let's look at the landscape of um the NFL on Chiefs are predicted to possibly run it back. Do you think
My
they
prediction
can?
as well, for the record, absolutely. We're not losing very many people. We need to shore up our wide receivers again. Last time it was like Juju Smith-Schuster. I can see him signing back. He liked it. Uh, Last year or year before, we missed out on him. He ended up going back to Pittsburgh, signed a 1 year deal. He was comfortable there. He passed up on a deal that was offered from Kansas City. This year, He came back. He came to Kansas City on a 1 year deal. He likes going where he's comfortable. Clearly, Patrick Mahomes makes stars. So if I'm Juju Smith-Schuster, I come back to Kansas City, a place I know, a place I can be successful, and a place I can get another ring. Add that resume, make a little bit of money, and then because he's still young, get one good contract here, pad your stats, and then get a massive contract somewhere else, just like Tyreek Hill did.
Okay, so what you're saying is you want him to. I want to hold on one second. I want to highlight this real quick. So Frank, which everyone knows is my brother, sent over Salty. So we want to say, hey, Salty, we appreciate your dropping in and giving us some support here. Definitely make sure to hit that share button and that subscribe button, you guys. So what do you think? What do you think happens in the what do you think's gonna? I feel like right now with the draft and how everything's going right now, I'm gonna go a little bit off script right now this second, but like I've been really hard and I've been really focused on the Lamar Jackson situation. Okay, I really think that the bad contract the Browns gave Deshaun Watson, and now mind you, Deshaun Watson was not in Lamar's division first off because he was in the AFC South. Second off, why are we matching? Why does he want to match contract for contract when we have to use context? And I think exactly what you said last week, which was like sometimes people want to use their emotions to make decisions. Yes, he got $250 million guaranteed. Now, historically, if you're a quarterback for the Ravens, the last quarterback to actually get a big contract, non-guaranteed, was Joe Flacco after he won the Super Bowl.
Yep.
So we look at the historical data and how that went. The Ravens believe that the logo, like we talked about, the logo and their franchise means more than any player. They know what their foundation is and they know what their beliefs are, and they said, hey, they wouldn't play they wouldn't pay their linebacker. They've been paying defensive players. So I believe he gets traded to the Bears. Justin Fields has already came out at a Barstool Sports that says he does not like playing in the cold. So there might be a possible I'm going to say a three-team trade. So Baltimore sends Lamar to the Bears. They send him a bunch of draft picks. Fields then goes to Atlanta with Arthur to play in a dome. And they send over a couple draft picks or compensation. And now you go behind the quarterback. I think it's Huntley. Is that Huntley for the Ravens?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you build with whatever draft picks you have behind him and move forward. Because as you saw in that playoff game, if he doesn't go over the top of that of the goal line, we're having a different conversation then.
So interesting you brought up Justin Field. I was in Chicago last night, and I was talking to somebody who lives in
Living
Chicago.
your best life.
And he was very sold on Justin Fields. He loves him, thinks that he's an elite quarterback in the league. He mentioned a couple conversations about him, but he mentioned that he thinks that he is legit. He just doesn't have the weapons. So does adding Lamar Jackson over somebody that's locally considered to be an elite quarterback change anything for Chicago?
Okay, so I know you. did you hear the conversation on when he was on Barstool Sports and how he feels like he doesn't run as fast like in the cold and how he feels like his ball throw isn't as consistent or precise in the cold. So as you know, Tom Brady played in the cold 20 plus years. Aaron Rodgers does. You know, Tennessee does. You know, so a lot of players feel like that's an advantage. Now, players have never actually ever came out and said, "Hey, I have a problem with this." But we have to remember that we are in 2023 where nothing is off the table. People are going to tell you how they feel, and they're gonna be okay with it. I kind of like the fact that Justin Fields did come out and say, "Hey, man, I don't like playing the cold." There is nothing wrong with saying, "Hey, I don't like playing the cold." Why are we roasting the kid for being honest?
So if I'm his agent, I'm saying you're a freaking idiot because guess what? All that matters is playoff games, and playoff games are in the cold. Keep your mouth shut. Get used to it. If you want to make money, you want to stick around, you better start taking some ice baths.
so, so what do you do? So I think he does get traded just for the comments.
Okay, but so now you look at his options, and let's say like we were just talking about Derek Carr, best place for him to go was the Jets because they have a good situation there. He potentially, with those comments, took off his best option for a team to go to have success winning because they think he doesn't want to be cold, and he just admits that he's not as good when he's cold. Same thing in Baltimore. Like he's not going to go to Baltimore for the same reasons because it's cold.
Well, come to
And
well, you're not
and
coming to
also,
Jacksonville. I'll tell you that.
yeah, I mean,
Oh, he could go to Miami.
hey, he can go to Miami and then still play a game a year in Buffalo.
You're right.
Like, oh, hey, look at this. We've got a December game in Buffalo. Let's just go ahead and bench everybody this season. We'll try again next year when we might be able to play a warm game.
Hey, you never know. So then what do you do? So do you take all right? So do you think? All right, let's start with Justin Fields since we're talking about Chicago real quick. Does Justin Fields stay with Chicago?
I think so. I think they've got other priorities to worry about. They need to get him some weapons. Sounds like they're high on him still. Um, why mess with something that you're high on? Like you drafted him for a reason. You need to give him the weapons. You need to give him the opportunity. If you give him everything he needs to succeed and he doesn't, then you're in a Lamar Jackson conversation. Um,
I think Lamar Jackson's a whole entire different story to begin with. I think Justin Fields, if like you said, and you were just in Chicago, do ownership and people do listen to fans, especially Chicago. Chicago's a very proud city and very intelligent. So I think if you're telling me, hey, people are saying, hey, they love him, they think he's a great guy, then I think then he stays with the Bears. But then also too, like, are you willing to let possibly a top draft pick go, knowing that Justin Fields does have a lot of draft stock to get picks back?
Good. But another factor we haven't talked about is Chicago bought land. The team bought land to build a new stadium with a dome.
With a dome. So kind of like now is it gonna have like the same type of style where like Arizona, like where they're able to like open the roof like during some games?
I don't know, but I know that like in my star quarterback that I'm putting my future on says that he doesn't like playing in the cold, and we already have the property, and we're working on all the plans to build the stadium. I'm wanting to hurry that up.
Okay. So all right, so it sounds like to me then you're sold on Justin Fields staying then.
Yeah, I don't think he'll leave.
Okay. Let's talk about the other one, which is Lamar Jackson, and which I think he's been a total headache. And I just think everyone's saying, yeah, he's taking the high road. Everyone's saying he's been a phenomenal team player and everything like this. You want to send encrypted tweets, you want to do this, you want to do that, but they gave you an offer and you still don't want it because you saw what Deshaun Watson got.
Yep, I'm
It's
looking
all yeah. Go ahead.
Honestly, I'm looking at Lamar Jackson, the money he wants, the team that's most desperate to try and get him. Um, I see him going to the Texans if he goes anywhere.
The Texans. I don't want him in the Texans.
Why? He doesn't have any other weapons there. He's just getting money.
So I guess like you would have to ask, and maybe this is a good question to ask. What's more important to Lamar, money or Super Bowl? Because it
Well,
can't be both. No, it can't. No, there's no way you can tell me it can be both. No way.
no, it's clearly money because he's not willing to take less to build a better team around himself.
And now everyone says like, yeah, you got to take the bag when you got it. Yes, but Tom Brady. Everyone says Tom Brady messed up the market. I don't think he messed up the market. I think with Patrick Mahomes getting paid the way he did in the contract he did, and you gave us a lot of insight last week on how they structured his contract and everything. I feel like that's a pretty good model to go after. Um, and I think that's not the question being asked, which is Lamar, is it money or Super Bowl?
So I think it's money, and I think that's the hang up on both sides because like with the Patrick Mahomes thing, like he bet on himself, he bet on the team around him. He took less money for long. He had a 10-year contract. Um, Lamar Jackson is not going to be in the league in 10 years because he
So you're
can't stay
saying
healthy.
Lamar's not going to be in the NFL in 10 years. So by 2033, he will not be in the league.
Yeah, he's going to be walking around with a limp because he keeps getting hit. Because
Fair enough.
so why am I going to give? Which that's exactly why his mom wants him to get the bag now. His agent, his mom, because she needs to secure his financial future while he still has that ability to earn the money. It makes sense from a personal standpoint. Make the money. You're dedicating your body to the sport. You're getting broken. Get compensated for it. The problem is the team gives him the money. He lasts for a little while, doesn't finish a complete season, and now they're out everything.
Yeah, and I think the Ravens do know that. That like, hey dude, like I don't want to give you a 5-year contract or a 6-year contract. I don't. And I think that's hard for a person to hear sometimes, especially when they've won a unanimous MVP and they've said, hey, this is the best person in the league for that year. But it's like, Shannon Sharp and everyone else says, what have you done for me lately? You haven't been able to finish 2 seasons in a row. And you didn't even show up to the playoffs to support your team. There's no way you can sit there and tell me that you are a premier team player if you cannot sit there and help your team try to advance at least.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, so it comes. What can we get for him? Well, we can get draft picks. We can get some players, maybe. So where do we send him? To whoever's willing to pay the most. And the Texans are in a rebuild mode. They hurt their fan base with all of their decisions around Deshaun Watson, with their decision to keep him around after the massage thing, to ship him off, um, their coaching decisions, like that fan base needs something. They got D'Amico Ryan. So how do they show that, hey, we're fully committed to D'Amico Ryans? We go trade for a star quarterback, even if he's temporary, even if you know he's not going to be in the league in 10 years. Don't overspend. Give the Ravens some capital. Get him. Have a chance for a couple seasons while you're finding that next QB and developing behind him.
So then the bigger question is like, do you believe he's looked at the whole entire, like, let's just say the AFC landscape? And yes, every athlete and every individual is going to say, yes, I am the best person in this conference, right? But can he sit there and honestly think that whatever team he's going to go to will have everything that they need? The Ravens, I believe, have done an amazing job of putting the right coaches around them. And unfortunately, like players are only going to, like free agent players, like Stephon Diggs that, left Minnesota and went to the Bills. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with what's his name? The defensive end for the Rams. What was his name? The one that went to the one that went to the Bills.
Von Miller?
Yeah, those type of key players and things like that. Those key big free agents go play for that individual. Now, it would worry me knowing that, hey, I have attempted to try to get a big free agent signing and I have not been able to get one. And it has been very well documented that not a lot of players want to go play with, and we've talked about this, with Lamar due to the fact of the offense they were running. But if you're supposed to be the guy, if Tom Brady can DM AB and DM such and such wide receiver, they don't care about what offense they're running. I'm gonna go play with this guy. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
How many
I
players
don't.
have honestly come? How many current players that are on the roster right now has actually come out and said you need to pay a little more right now?
Maybe it's a local news thing. I haven't seen it.
I think we need to find out. But let's think about it. Former players on TV or whatever can say whatever they're gonna say, but I believe those player those players in that locker room aren't saying something. And I'm gonna use the Steve Wilkes situation. The man only coached 6 games or 12 games. Excuse me. He coached 12 games, and we consistently heard he needs to come back.
But who on the Ravens are we going to listen to anyway?
I mean, hey man, you got to listen to your locker room. I mean, think about the Nick Foles and Carson Wentz situation when they did a second playoff run with Foles. Remember, they said they had a shrine like built in the locker room of Foles, not of Carson Wentz, but of Nick Foles. Remember?
Yep. So,
So
and I think that goes to, like you mentioned, like it's one thing. Every NFL quarterback has to be unbelievably confident. Like if you lose the confidence, you lose your career. So it's not about the player's confidence. Every single starting quarterback thinks that they either are or have the potential to be the greatest. It's what the people around you. And to your point, I'm not hearing any.
exactly. So as we've wrapped up a little over an hour already, we've kind of crushed through today's stream. Um, I do have one. I have one breaking news announcement that happened about 20 minutes ago. Bobby Wagner just got released.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Where does he land? I think he goes Dallas.
Dallas, they've got good linebackers already. I actually, guy that I've been following since high school, he signed as an undrafted free agent to Dallas, and then he didn't make the team. The team was stacked. He signed to go to um, Cleveland, so he's on the practice squad at Cleveland now. But I I don't see them bringing in an aging guy when they've got so much young, solid talent. Michael Parsons, Van Der Esch. Like I don't see it. I don't see him wanting to go there with their playoff issues either.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I can
Well,
see him go Von Miller to Buffalo,
they don't need no
or
more defense. They need a running back.
we'll take him.
I know you would.
Every year we get an old guy that's still got a couple years left. We get him for a year and send him on in.
That's some bullshit right there.
Start winning, and you'll get to enjoy that.
You are right. I mean, we are working on it. But I greatly appreciate everyone that tuned in today. Remember, you can hit us up on Twitter. We are on the Facebook at Jive Turkeys 65. We're also on YouTube, and we actually have the podcast on Podbean as Jive Turkey 65 as well too. So if you can't see us, definitely rewatch us and let us know what you guys think are on the topics as we covered the running back situation. And I greatly appreciate my co-host coming in today, Rob, as he came back from Chicago and came back with some good news on some good valuable information. So we always appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Always a pleasure. And